Hey folks, how you doing? Randy Newberg here with another episode of Elk Talk Live. This is episode 60 something. I'm not sure what, but anyhow, last week we streamed it on Instagram right here. We streamed it on live stream, but Facebook just laid down on us last week. So not sure what happened, but we're up and running this week. So we're going to talk about a few things. One, since we did this last week, the Montana deadline has passed, and at 5 o'clock this afternoon, the New Mexico deadline passed. So if you didn't get your applications in, you got a pretty tough time trying to hunt Montana or New Mexico this year. The good news is April 2nd is when the Colorado deadline is, and after that is the Nevada deadline of April 29th, followed by the elk, deer, and antelope deadline in Idaho, which is June 5th, I believe. So, anyhow, thanks for joining us. If you want to get notified of these, text Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 64600. And we want to make sure everybody knows who's making this possible, right? Right here, Bowtech, Loophole, Go Hunt. Use promo code Randy, get $50 of store credit when you sign up for the Insider. Onyx Maps, use promo code Randy, save 20% on all your app purchases. Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, use promo code Randy and save 15% on all their cool elk calls. Well, even turkey calls or predator calls, whatever you want. Ripcord, Black Gold, and Tight Spot. And there we go. All right, so look at all the questions already. This is a question from last week. The winter in Montana is brutal. I was out muskrat trapping this week, and it's been in the single digits every morning when I get out to check my traps. Tony, hey, how you doing? Tony says hi from Texas. Hi, Tony. Nice to see you. Let me see. Where are the comments? Oh, wait. Oh, open the chat side. Start. Okay. Why am I not getting the comments?
On what?
On live stream. Are you getting any? Or just nobody there? Join the chat. No? Guess.
No, I'm not getting anything.
Well, guess what? We're going to get the comments then from Facebook and Instagram. How long does it take Arizona to notify you for the first come, first serve leftover tags? I'm not sure. If there are any, they're pretty marginal. So I've had some people contact me and said, oh no, Arizona has some over-the-counter elk tags. I'm not aware of them. Maybe they do. And I suspect if they do, they're in some pretty marginal areas. I know they had some leftovers after the draw, but those, I'm not sure if those will go on those do go on a first come, first serve. But they're such a small handful, and this is a very unusual year to have any of them, that I didn't even like. Randy Tucker says, hey, update, Randy. Williams, Arizona's Dairy Queen is still closed. Hey, today was free cone day at Dairy Queen. I hope you've been there. Go to our Instagram story. We were there, weren't we, Kyler?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, all right. Let's see. Any tips on bear hunting in Idaho this spring? Yeah. If you're going to have bears that are coming out later than normal probably, and when they come out, they're probably going to have a pretty good batch of snow to deal with, so look on the south-facing slopes. Idaho is one of those places that lets you bait, so go ahead and do that. Let's see. Jack asked, do we apply for Ibex, Oryx, or Aoudad in New Mexico? And we get this question a lot about, why don't you come to Maine and hunt whitetails? Why don't you come and hunt hogs? So our content is always native species, so that kind of eliminates Ibex, Oryx, and Aoudad in New Mexico, or hogs. And we tell all of our partners, our sponsors, that, look, we're going to produce Western content because they have budgets, so they allocate some to elk. They go and hire other platforms for whitetails or for turkeys. So they rely on us to be the Western public land content that they're looking to be a part of. So that's what drives a big part of what we do. All those other things seem like a ton of fun. Before I started this, I always applied for those tags in New Mexico, but I don't anymore. And it's not some personal reason that I don't want to. It's just what we promise we're going to produce for content. So hopefully that makes sense, because we get that question a lot. Hey, Randy, trying to draw Unit 61 early rifle season in Colorado. I have 25 points. Ooh, wow. You got a pretty good chance if you're a resident. I know you hunted the unit. What caliber of bulls could I expect? Any advice on areas to try? For that early season, I'd try right up on top. I don't think they're going to be pushed off the edge. Quality of bulls, there's some really nice bulls there. Really nice. So if I was burning that number of points, I'd be pretty particular. Milk the hunt for all you can and have a good time. And whatever one strikes your fancy, shoot it. Don't worry about scores. So let's see, Randy, can you give me some insight to your broadhead selection for larger game animals such as elk and bison? Last year I hunted both. I had an archery bison tag in Utah and I hunted elk. I hunt elk every year. I'm a fixed blade guy. You'll talk to most Western hunters because most of the Western states were slow to allow the use of mechanicals, and Idaho, I believe, is still one that does not. You're going to see that in the West, we mostly use fixed blades, not mechanicals. And I fall into that category. I use heavy, use 125 grain, and my total arrow setup is right around 500. So I don't claim to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. I know it works for me, and that works really good for me. If you go to our YouTube channel and you see the bison hunt from last October, you'll see that it works really good. Let's see. Mike Morrison says, Unit 10, Lolo Zone, Idaho. Any thoughts? My thoughts are if you're going to hunt that area, you're tough. It's steep, it's thick, it's nasty. I've never hunted it, so I wish I could be of some help. Let's see. Holy cow, we have got a lot of them here. Thanks for all the great comments. This is cool when we get this many. Neil asks, Randy, what are your thoughts of hunting elk from a tree stand? There's a lot of people, who, especially whitetail hunters, come out west with their tree stands, and the Western guys are like, oh, geez, tree stand. A lot of those guys fill their elk tag. So I don't do it, but if that's something, a tactic and a style you're handy with, I wouldn't discount it. I'd spend the time to go and do it. This person asks, Randy, can you hunt with a bow in Wyoming's rifle season? You know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I think you can. If you're talking about the rifle dates, could you go there with your bow? I believe you can, but I don't want to say that without knowing for sure. Oh, look, now I'm getting all kinds of comments on live stream. Cool. Randy, you had to do a video on building a fire in snow or wet conditions in the West. I've seen videos using birch bark, but haven't seen a lot of birch in Colorado. Yeah. For me, I carry an artificial fire starter. There's that old style stuff that the military used to use it, they say. It's called trioxane. You can get it at Army Navy surplus. I use that. There's, like, if you go into farm and ranch stores, there's all kinds of these little fire starter gels. I always carry a fire starter with me. Plus, I carry multiple ways to start or strike a flame, whether it's a lighter, matches. When you need to do it, you need to do it usually fast. And I carry stuff to, you can call it accelerant, whatever. It's a fire starter. Hello, Virgil's from South Korea. Holy smokes, wow. Montana General elk tag or Idaho elk? Bow season. Bow season make Montana a better option. Yes, I would agree, but I can't say that for certain, not having hunted archery season in Idaho. So, and someone just says, when you coming to hunt elk in Idaho? I'm not sure if they ever. So people ask this all the time, so I'm just going to say it again because it's application season. People say, why don't you hunt Idaho? Well, we have to have 12 to 14 tags to fill a season. So when we have January, it's Wyoming elk. We have February, it's Utah and Arizona. We got to start stacking up tags to make sure we got enough to fill the season of content. So when we get to Idaho, all of the other tags, we know what we've drawn, we know where we're going. When we apply in Idaho, we swing for the fences because we're not going to fill one of the or move one of these limited entry elk tags we drew in, say, New Mexico or Arizona or Colorado or Wyoming with a general Idaho tag. We're not. So because of that, we apply for really hard to draw tags in Idaho, and as a result, we never end up drawing them. And if Idaho's schedule was moved forward, I'd bet you any money we'd probably end up there more often. Any worries about winter kill due to the weather in Wyoming? I'm not sure how it is in Wyoming, but I'd be worried about it in Montana, especially for deer and antelope. When you take the tenderloins out using the gutless method, do you maneuver the animal to make it easier? Yes, I do. Depends on if it's a steep slope, if it's flat, whatever. Elk seem like they might be, let's just scroll up, might be hard if the intestines are pushing on it. Yep, they are. So here's a little trick if you want. So the elk's laying like this and you want to get to this tenderloin. If you poke just a really, really minute hole in the stomach after you're done with everything else, you can push all that air out of there without a big explosion. And then that releases the pressure and you can get right in there. Easy. So, hopefully that helps a little bit. I use it a lot that way. Randy, you still looking to film a late Arizona bull elk tag? Not sure. An awful lot of people have asked me, but it just depends on what the calendar says. We still are waiting for results in so many of the other states. Utah, we'll be waiting for Colorado, for Nevada, Montana, New Mexico. So once we get all of those tag results, then we'll start worrying about, do we have a blank spot that period of time? If we end up not filming an elk hunt in Arizona during that time, we're probably going to be filming a coos deer hunt in Arizona at that time. Uh-oh, we have some echoes going on Facebook. What does that mean? I don't know if that means that someone's asking the same questions or if it's actual an audio echo. So Tyrell says, I applied for New Mexico for the first time today. So excited. Good luck, Tyrell. I hope you draw. Someone says for Firestarter, they use cotton balls soaked in Vaseline. Great, cheap Firestarter. That's good. Someone else asked, do I carry a spotting scope when archery elk hunting? Usually not, because I'm hunting with my ears, I'm moving, I'm on the go. I mean, occasionally I will. When I'm rifle hunting, you won't see me without my Leupold spotter. It's just how it is. So a lot of times when I'm archery hunting, I'm not using it. Eric asked this question. I get it so often. Randy, I'm on my way to my first elk hunt. Is there a way I could send you my Onyx maps for Colorado and you could check my spots and see if I'm nuts or not? I wish I could say yes, but I get that multiple times a week, and I'm so far behind on emails. I apologize to all of you who have sent emails, but I'm probably 1,500 emails behind, so I'm sorry. I wish I could do it, but I can't. Let's see. Southeast Montana archery elk. What's your thought on this area? I know you've taken a nice bull there. Yeah, I had the rifle tag there, but a lot of people like it. And part of the reason is that it was 2016, I think. The world record archery bull got taken there. So it gets a lot of demand at this point because of big elk. So I think it's a great place. But my observation is the elk are very transient there. They get a lot of pressure on public land, and you got to work hard. A little bit of luck never hurts either. Someone says, when are you going to decorate the wall? Whenever I quit having to travel and do everything else. I run on about 4 or 5 hours of sleep right now, so Kyler, when are you guys going to decorate the wall back here?
As soon as you give me a screw gun.
Okay. Well, there's a bunch of them here. So he said as quick as we give him a screw gun. I don't know. I don't trust these employees. There'll be all kinds of holes in this wall back here, and I'm not sure I'll have to fix it again. Let's see. Would you still pick Montana if you were choosing a place to live today? I think. It says if you were choosing today. I assume you mean where I live. What state would be your second choice? In the lower 48, my second choice, hands down, it would be a toss-up between Montana and Wyoming. It would depend on what I'm looking for, what I prefer to do. Fishing versus bird hunting versus waterfowl hunting versus big game. You couldn't go wrong with either of them, but I can assure you it would be between those two for me. How's tax season going? Pretty darn good. I'm I'm pretty bad at being a tax accountant anymore. Let's see. How far is too far from the truck? My area is 6 to 8 miles in. That's pretty far if you're on foot. And just figure out how am I going to get one out of there. Maybe you have some buddies who will help you, but you can do it. I usually don't hunt that far from the truck. Usually if you get past a mile, you're going to have thinned out most of the people. And I get a lot of people say, oh, we're in there 4 miles. And I know where they were at. Now you're in about 1.5 miles. We just have a tendency. I'm the same way. I have a tendency to think I'm in there way further than I really am till I look at my own axis like, okay. So I have 0 points in Wyoming and Colorado. Is it worth footing the application bills or just buying preference points? That depends. Each state is different. So Colorado is a preference point state. So if you don't have enough points, you're just, say you put in for a really hard unit that takes 10 points and you're at 0, you may as well just buy a point because you're not going to draw. A true preference point system, the person with the most points gets the tag. Wyoming has 75% of their tags on a preference point. The other 25% are in a random draw. So even if you don't have enough points in Wyoming, you still have the chance to draw on that random draw of those 25%. So it's a different answer for Wyoming than it is for Colorado. Let's see. We getting anything out there? Oh, here we go. Randy, when are your muskrat trapping videos coming out? I think we're going to launch those on April 1st. No, not because it's April Fool's Day. Even though I did fall in the creek the first day. That was not good. That was not good at all. Any day-by-day spring bear hunts coming this year? Yep, got that coming. Method and cost to take care of an elk or bring an elk home when flying to your hunt. That's going to be something you got to consider the logistics of. Whether you want to process it, then you're going to be flying it home, probably as luggage, and you want it there when you get there. And you're going to require a lot of coolers with ice. Check with the airline, find out what their rules are about non-frozen meat. Make sure that if you put dry ice in there, that you check with the airlines to find out what those rules are. A lot of people, what they do is they take it to a processor, they have it processed, and then the processor ships it back home to them. But if you're flying, that is definitely one of the challenges you're going to face. So, Randy, I've been browsing a ton on Go Hunt. I love it. Yeah, so do I. Do you avoid the glory units that are at the top of all these lists? Yeah. When you do all the filtering and you say, I want 350-inch bulls and I want da-da-da or percent public land, you can click on that and you'll see what the draw odds are. I just, I avoid them. I don't apply for the glory tags unless it's some state. There's a few states where I have a lot of points, specifically for sheep. That's where I have most of my points. Yeah, I might apply for one of the quote-unquote glory tags, but I want to go hunting. You don't see me applying for those real popular units. So let's talk about Colorado though, right? That's next on the calendar. Colorado is due April 2nd. Colorado is a cool state to go and hunt. I've hunted there so many times for deer. I've hunted there for antelope. I helped a friend who had a bighorn sheep tag, and yeah, I've hunted there a lot for elk. The beauty of Colorado is they have over-the-counter second rifle and third rifle in most of their archery. So you go to the Colorado regulations or you go to Go Hunt, and they will show you which of the units, I think it's over 90 of their units, are available for these over-the-counter tag purchase and go hunt there. So you think about that. That's a huge amount of opportunity. So if you don't draw on all these other states, or say you're really low on the point scale and you say, I just got to build some points for a couple of years, Colorado is your opportunity. And then even if you do have 1, 2, 3, 4 points, you can hunt the first season, because the first season's all limited entry draw. The fourth season is all limited entry draw. Those areas, you're hunting kind of a lot of those are the same units you're going to hunt in the second and third, but there's way fewer people in the hills, and you're going to have a higher quality hunt. Don't expect that in these over-the-counter or other units that you're going to consistently see big elk. You're going to mostly see 2.5 and 3.5-year-old bulls, but that's a ton of fun. Plus, they have so many cow tags. Colorado has the largest elk herd in the state, or in the United States, by a big margin. Depending on the year, the population ranges from 240,000 to almost 280,000. And most of it's in the eastern, probably 60% of the state, or western 60% of the state. You think about that, that puts a lot of elk in a smaller area. The elk densities in Colorado are crazy. So make sure you're buying points in Colorado, building them. And if you don't want to do that, use it as your fallback option as a place to go and hunt over the counter after all the draws are done. So yeah, Colorado, cool stuff. Randy, have you ever hunted Unit 41 Colorado? Nope, never hunted Unit 41. Let's see, where'd that go? Some of these go by so fast, I can't read them all. Will I automatically start at the highest elevation possible in the local area during archery elk season? No, I won't automatically do that. Or will other factors lead you from heading for the peaks and ridges? Yes. And we go through this every time. This is the very first analysis we do. And Michael in our office drew a Wyoming elk tag. And we're going to walk through this, Michael and I, so you can see how we analyze this. And this question that Rob asked is perfect lead into it. I always say, what are the 5 seasons, right? Early season, which is August. Pre-rut, which is the first few days of September. Peak rut, post-rut, late season. So if you're talking archery season, you're talking probably either pre-rut or peak rut. Well, I gotta say, what is the number one priority, the need that those elk have at that time of year? In the pre-rut to that transition of peak rut, it's gonna go from at the beginning of September, possibly food and water with breeding starting to move up. By the 7th or 8th of September, breeding is gonna be the number one thing. So where are they gonna go? They aren't gonna just go to the highest ground. They're gonna go where the cows are, because breeding is the number one priority. So in September, you're almost hunting bull elk the same as if you were hunting cow elk, and that's food. You're not looking for the best food because that's where the bulls want. You're looking for the best food because that's what the cows want, and wherever the cows are in September, that's where the bulls will be. So wherever it is you're hunting, go and do the research and find out what's the preferred forage for cow elk in that area. I can assure you, some university, the BLM, the Forest Service, your state wildlife agency, someone has done the research about elk preferred food at just about all times of year. So once you know what that is, go and figure out, all right, it's at this elevation. Okay, it's on north slopes. Okay, it requires this amount of moisture, whatever. You will find elk in the places where the best preferred food is at. That's how I do it. I don't just bomb out and say, I got to get to the highest ridge. Because there's a lot of high ridges that don't have any elk. So hopefully that I know that's a long answer, but that's the way I approach it. Let's see. Now that you switched to a synthetic sleeping bag, which one did you choose? I chose a Sea to Summit synthetic, but I'm not partial to any sleeping bag. I wanted to try it, and so far it's working great. One thing about it, synthetics are definitely heavier than downs for the same temperature rating, and heavier, bulkier. So I'm still going to be using my down a lot in instances where I know the likelihood of moisture or any serious moisture event is low. I'm still probably going to carry that lightweight down that I love. Late archery season, spot and stock or sit water? Spot and stock for me. I know people who sit water are going to kill more elk, but I just don't have the fortitude. So, what was that? How long does it take you to break in a new pair of Kenetrek boots? About 3 miles. I can't explain why. For me, when I throw a pair of Kenetreks on, I take off trucking, and I've got some of them I've never broken. I just started using them. I wouldn't suggest you do that. I think I'm just one of those really lucky people that my foot fits the Kenetrek platform like a glove, or that platform fits my foot like a glove, whichever way you'd look at it. Within probably 3 miles, they're feeling like, wow, this is already getting every little crease and seam that I want is there. But I know other people will say, nah, it takes me about 10 miles or 20 miles. So going to be a little different for everybody, but treat your boots properly. Kenetrek will show you that they've got this wax. We've done a bunch of videos out on our YouTube channel. How to treat a leather boot like a Kenetrek Mountain Extreme or a Kenetrek Mountain Guide. There's a way to it. And if you treat them right at the beginning, you're going to benefit. Your boot's going to last longer. You're going to be more comfortable. It takes just a little bit of time, but it's definitely worthwhile. So Randy, I'm moving to Sheridan, Wyoming. Have you ever hunted the Bighorn Mountains? Yep, I have. Cool place. I love the Bighorns. You're going to have a lot of fun hunting in the Bighorns. Let's see. Have you ever done any aerial reconnaissance in an area before you hunted? No, I haven't. We, do our aerial reconnaissance via Onyx because you click either hybrid, topo, or aerial. And it's pretty easy to get a good view of what you're looking at. But no, I've never flown and said, I want to see where the elk are today. I've never done that. Let's see. So many of them here. Yeah, a bunch of people have asked that. I've answered this question already today. How does the Wyoming general tag hunting pressure compare to other states, Montana and Colorado especially? Not even close. There's nowhere near the amount of hunting pressure on a Wyoming general tag as there is in Montana and Colorado. What areas of Montana would you avoid specifically because of grizzlies, or all in play? If you want to get out of grizzly country in Montana, you're going to have to stay somewhere in the central part of the state for the most part. You get south of Bozeman, south of I-90 here, you're dealing with grizzlies. If you get over in the Bitterroot, you're probably not going to have grizzlies. If you get in the big belts or in the Judiths, in the Snowies, the little Snowies, the little belts, very, very unlikely you're going to have grizzlies. Once you start getting again north of Lincoln or all that Bob Marshall, that northwest part of the state, you got grizzlies. So it's unfortunately a reality of hunting elk in a lot of places, not just in Montana, but Wyoming, and to some degree Idaho. Randy, how would you approach a hunt when you only have a day here and there to hunt an area with a low elk density and so deer? That would be a tough one. I'd look for a place with the highest elk densities I could find, first of all. The other thing I would do is I'd try to hunt the days that are not weekend days because there's going to be less hunting pressure. I'd probably try to hunt more on Thursdays and Fridays because the big pulse of pressure on Saturday and Sunday pushes the elk into certain areas and they almost become pretty much nocturnal, especially in rifle season. By Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they've had a lot less pressure, so they start to act more like normal elk. So if I only had a day here, day there, I'd be more interested in what days of the week I was hunting than probably anything. So, what do you think about the Cabinet Mystery Ranch backpack compared to the Metcalf? It just so much depends on what you're going to do, what you're going to use it for. My go-to pack is my Metcalf. It compresses really flat. Once we get an elk, I can carry so much weight. But I have them all, and I love them all, and I use certain ones for certain things. If I'm going on an 8-day hunt like I did in Alaska last year, I had a Beartooth 80 with me. It just really depends on what the application is that I'm going to be using it for. So, let's see. Some of you people ask some of the funniest questions. If I answered some of these, I would be in such hot water. So, we got any more? Okay, here we go. Grouse versus elk. Every elk hunt is really a grouse hunt. I guess hopefully that answers the question. Best two-person tent recommendation. If you watch our content, I use Hilleberg tents. And if I had two people, I would carry a 3-man. When I just myself, I carry a 2-man. When you're going back there for a long period of time, and for us anyhow, we've always got a lot of production gear, camera gear, extra stuff we got to bring with. I want to have some extra space to protect it from the elements. So I know it weighs an extra pound to carry a 2-man versus a 1-man, or a 3-man versus a 2-man. I've got some good friends, but I'm just not doing a two guys in a 2-man tent. I'm sorry. This is how it is. I'm not. So, Randy, when you do a backcountry backpack hunt, how do you keep your phone charged? Let me see if I have them with me. Bunch of these right here. Hopefully you can see what that is. But this Jackery, I'll get about 4 phone charges just out of this one right here. And we have some much bigger ones that we'll carry because we're charging our mirrorless camera batteries. We're charging a lot of things with it. So our GoPro batteries, that's what I use, is something just like that. And that Jackery, I'm not tied to any of them. It's whatever one works for you. Let's see. Have I ever hunted Unit 67 or 76 in Colorado? Nope, I haven't. I have friends who have, and they said they were a ton of fun. So, let's see. Have I ever had issues? What was that? Have I ever had issues with people messing with your stuff at camp while you were out hunting? I've not. I hope I never do. I know some people have, and boy, I hope I never do because I don't handle that stuff very well. Yeah, I'm usually a really calm, easygoing guy, but someone starts stealing or messing with my stuff, and you'll see a side of me that isn't the normal side. So, late season archery, Arizona, Unit 7E, backpack and keep a mobile camp or stay near the truck and help stay warm. I had the Unit 7E October tag in 2000, what year was that? 17, I think. It's a tough unit. it's a lot of the elk are in the higher elevation. So you either get to hike every day a lot, or you go up there and you tough it out and set up a camp. I don't know what to say about that late archery season in November. That'd be a tough one. I'd probably hope that it was a dry year and I'd go find a water hole down low and sit that. Let's see. Randy, is the 7mm08 a good elk rifle? You know what? Whether I said yes, people would disagree. Whether I said no, people would disagree. I think it's a good elk cartridge. Use high quality bullets. Use 140 grain. I've got 3 7mm08s, I think, maybe 4. They love 140 grain. And use a super high quality bullet. In mine, I use Accubons or E-tips from Nosler, and I'd have no hesitations about shooting an elk with it. Now, some people are going to say, "Oh no, no," and I would agree. There are rifles that I have a whole bunch of rifles. I can grab any of them to take with me. My 7mm is not the one I'm going to grab. I'm going to grab my 308 most likely, but if it's not super steep country or I'm not backpacking way in there, I might grab my 300 Win Mag. So, what is my thought on shed hunting? If you've watched our stuff, I hang all shed antlers up in a tree. I get that people like it, but I just so that's my opinion. My opinion is whatever you want to do. If you want to go do it, but in these places where they have seasons for a reason. Be considerate of the elk and the deer on the winter range. Do not be out there moving them, pushing them, harassing them when they're at this most critical point of their life, or of their year, maybe of their life. That's my opinion on it. However you want to do it, whatever you do, but just be real considerate of them. Water filter recommendations. Yep, I use Katadyn. I use Katadyn gravity filter. Super lightweight, super useful. And now they have this new thing called the Be Free. It's like a water bladder with a built-in filter. We took those to Alaska last year. Oh man, that's so slick. Katadyn, Be Free. Trust me, you're gonna want some of them. Yeah. Mark says, don't go cheap on boots or sleeping bags. Mark, I'm with you, man. Don't go cheap. Let's see. Randy, when you are archery elk hunting, do you plan overnight hunts or come back to camp every night? It's a little bit of both, but I would say I come back to a camp every night. If there's one time of the year I want to be super mobile, it's archery season. So we do very few, way back in archery hunts. And now that I said that, the plan for Montana is this year I'm taking 4 llamas way back in someplace. So, but normally, in most cases, if it's a place I don't know that well, or I think the elk densities are pretty low and there's going to be, a pocket of elk over there, but tomorrow they might be over here or over there, and I'm going to have to move around a lot, I'm probably coming back to a main camp. So, trying to brought my 3 girls to Dairy Queen today. Thanks for letting us know. No charge for that one. What's the most fun on any hunt that you've ever done? Boy, that's hard to say. I'd say a lot of the most fun hunts I've ever had weren't even my tags. They were when I was there with a special person, someone who means a lot to me, a family member, a friend. What would that be? I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. I've had so many fun hunts. I would say that my bison hunt in Utah this last year was, it was close to the top of the list. Let's see. Randy, I can only find a 130 grain Nosler E-tip bullet for my 270 Win I love the bullet. I've killed 2 cow elk with it, but I'm worried it's a bit small grain for a bull. No, it's not. Shoot him. Trust me on that one. You'll kill him. Don't worry about that. 130 grain, it's going to be just fine. Oh, let's see. Do I call for elk even when the elk are not vocal in September? Yep, I sure do. I learned that from my buddy Corey. I know nobody who calls as much as Corey, and I know nobody who gets as many responses as Corey. So I pay really close attention to what Corey Jacobson does when it comes to calling. He's the Charlie Daniels of the elk bugle, if ever there was. Let's see. Why would someone use a handheld GPS versus the Onyx mobile app? That's a really good question. Well, I use it at times, and people call me out. Randy, what are you doing with an old-style GPS? I'll tell you why. Because it might be a unit I've hunted in the past, like 5 years ago, and I still have all my waypoints on my old GPS. I've been too busy, too lazy, whatever, to migrate them all over to my app. I know that's not a good excuse. I don't know why anyone would do that, but here I am. I can tell you why I do it, and I don't do it much anymore, but I am. So, stupid on my part, I know. But the great folks over at Onyx, use promo code Randy and save 20% on all your app products. Oh, and remember, right? Bowtech, Loophole, Onyx, Go Hunt, Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, Ripcord, Tight Spot, Black Gold. They're who make this possible every Wednesday night. So when you're thinking about buying products, if they make them, I hope you'd go check them out. Randy, get started on that Cow Elk podcast. You know, we have had, so Corey and I, we do the Elk Talk podcast together. We've had so many comments back. Yeah, please do a cow elk. So we're going to. In fact, I think my Wyoming elk tag this year, it's in a unit that has such terrible, difficult access that I doubt that the percentage of the unit that is available for me to hunt is really small. But I've been told that a lot of cow elk come through there. So there's a really good chance my Wyoming elk tag, because it's an either sex tag, I'm probably going to use it as a cow elk tag this year. And we're going to do that podcast. We're going to do a bunch of videos about it so we can show people, here's how we approach cow elk hunting. Randy, ever hunt wolf in the Taylor's Fork? Yep. Go out to our YouTube channel and you'll see a 2-episode version of wolf hunting in Montana. And probably half of that was up in that part of the Madison Range. So, or the head of the Gallatin Drainage, whatever you want to call it. What's that? Brandon, I have an inside track on when New Mexico draw results will come out, but I ain't telling you because you weren't nice when I missed it a few years ago. Brandon. Let's see. Any tips for telling the difference between an actual elk bugle and another hunter? Experience. And there's been times I've said, that's got to be a hunter. And it wasn't. It was an elk. So there's no perfect answer to it, but yeah, I would say it definitely comes with experience. Oh, and if you want to get notified about when we go live on this, now that we're trying to get back in the weekly process of doing it, text Randy to 64600 and you'll get notified every time we go live. Someone asked, when you pack in and there's a certain elevation where is there a certain elevation where you'll drink straight from the creek, or do you always filter? I always filter. I don't know how many people I've talked to who said, oh, we were at whatever elevation, we were told, or I was told, or I was confident we were above the elevation I got to worry about. No, I'm not doing that. If I'm back on a hunt, the last thing I want is Giardia. So I don't have an elevation. I'm just carrying a filter. Let's see. Hey, Randy, is it easier to draw a permit with a bow tag than a rifle tag in Montana? Well, first you got to get your general tag. and then you can apply for the limited entry tags. The limited entry tags, yes, the archery tags are usually much easier than the rifle tags. Keith says, sounds like we've got the same unit in Wyoming this year. Maybe. What's going on with my feed here? I'm out on live stream. I'm not getting any new questions. There's got to be some new ones coming. But
Last one I have is 9 minutes ago.
really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Randy, you should get the crew to the Big Sky Total Archery Challenge and do an episode. We're there every year. We're there podcasting every year. So maybe we'll do an episode up there. If you get a chance, go to all those. If you're into archery, go to one of those Total Archery Challenges. They're a ton of fun. I have a lot of fun. What is the furthest you've ever had to pack an elk? Oh, let's see. I would say those ones in Wyoming that time. Me and Mike shot where he shot his elk. A little over 5 miles. I shot one in New Mexico that Troy and I had to pack a little over 5 miles, so each trip was a little over 5 miles, and we didn't intend for it to be that way. But you go out and you're a couple miles from the truck, it's like, oh, they're just over there. So you go another mile, oh, they're just over there. You go another mile. Pretty soon you're like, oh my goodness. So it's brutal. Absolutely brutal to packing out that far. I'm getting too old for that stuff. How would you convince someone to do a do-it-yourself elk hunt with you when that person is convinced they need a guide? Don't try to convince them, Everyone's got their own ideas and thoughts about it. If they want to go with a guide, that's what they should do. And if you want to go do it yourself, that's what you should do. Go and have fun. Let's see. I couldn't get my Onyx app to work with my iPhone in Montana last fall. I don't know why it wouldn't, unless you didn't have the Montana subscription. I really don't know. We go all over the West, and we get them to work all the time. If we're going to be in a place without service, we certainly download our maps before we go there, and we put it on airplane mode so we aren't burning up our batteries in a no service area. But other than that, man, I don't know what would have been the situation there. What ammo do you prefer for your 308 when hunting elk? I have 165 grain Nosler partitions or 168 grain Nosler E-tips are the two that are my go-to when it comes to elk in my 308. All right. Do we have any more that are coming from Instagram?
Yeah, we've got a few.
Kyler's back there on He's on Instagram, and then he's sending them to me here on a Google Doc. So here's how I'm multitasking. I have all of the Google Doc questions from Instagram. Then I've got live stream, and then I've got Facebook. So I'm trying to read these from multiple locations. Do I ever use a game buggy? Nope, I don't. I have one. They're just, for the places I hunt elk, they're more pain than they're worth. Let's see. Randy, are you planning another podcast with Shane Mahoney? I hope so. Shane and I have been together at 3 different events since November, and we're just like so busy that we can never get our calendars to match. If you get a chance, go sign up for Shane's stuff out at Conservation Visions. He is such a knowledgeable guy. He's just really, really great guy. Randy, I just finished rewatching your How to E-Scout series today. How big are the areas you focus on per day while in the field? They're not that big. I'll say, all right, this is my morning. You know how I talk about in those videos out on our YouTube channel about E-Scouting here, E-Scouting there. And my areas, okay, I like to have an area A, B, or C, or area 1, 2, 3, whatever. And one will be a morning area, one might be an afternoon area, and then one might be the next morning area. Those areas that I'm talking about where I'm going in there, when I get to my glassing area, I hope I can glass a mile that way and a mile that way and maybe a mile that way. So we're not talking places where I want to be able to see 5, 6 miles. One, you really can't. And you can't efficiently cover that much cover. So I put more faith in my e-scouting and say, all right, I know there are elk in here somewhere. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to work that area really hard. I don't want really, really big areas. It's too inefficient, and I think for some people it's too intimidating. Let's see. In Colorado, would you pick archery or first rifle? Depends on what you like to hunt with. Either one would be great. So I'd say whatever you're going to have the most fun doing. Randy, will you apply for any Idaho hunts this year? Yep, I apply every year. Odds are, though, I probably am not going to draw, just like every other year. If the weather is a little warmer, would you recommend cutting into the meat down to the bone, but not off the bone to hang it? It's got to be pretty warm before I will bone meat out the first day. My first night when I hang it, I prefer to have it on the bone, and I'll hang it where there's wind, and even in the next day I'll make sure it's shaded, because if you get that ball of meat and it just compresses down into just a big mass of meat, the core of that big ball of meat, when you've taken it off the bone, is never going to cool off unless you take it and lay it out in individual pieces. Then it will cool quickly. But then you got flies, then you got dirt, then you got all the other things. So the first night, I'm just about always going to hang it with the bone in a bag, in a game bag. I use synthetic caribou game bags. And then when I'm getting ready for my big pack out, then I might bone it out. So let's see. Do I ever use trail cameras during your hunt? Nope, I don't. They've only been legal in Montana for the last 2 years, I think, and we want to do a bunch of fun stuff with them here for content. Just go and each of us set up a camera just for the observation part of it, but I've never used them during a hunt. So, what do I keep in my first aid kit? Boy, that depends. I have my very, very small first aid kit, and then I got my bigger base camp first aid kit. But this year I got sent a new first aid kit, and I was very impressed with it. It's I'm pulling it up here. Adventure Medical Kits. They sent me one. Super, super impressed with it. If you get a chance, check them out. They got some really, really cool stuff. I just pulled up their website, adventuremedicalkits.com. I was very impressed. The way it's laid out, how it's diagrammed, and so you know where to find it, everything you need, find it really quickly. I'm going to be doing more of using more of their stuff. So, what are the odds that you will hunt elk in Utah during a general hunt? The odds are pretty slim. Reason being is we want to go to places where we can show people where they can have a hunt. And I know people think I'm dissing on Utah all the time, and it's not that. It's just Utah manages the majority of their elk, their good quality elk hunting that a non-resident is willing to travel to and willing to pay all the money for, is usually not the general hunts in Colorado. And we're trying to show people, here's places you can go, have a great time, have a great experience, and it'll be worth it for your money relative to the other states. And so when you factor all those in there, the Utah general tag just ends up lower on the scale. So that's why the odds of us being there is pretty slim for a general hunt. So, holy cow. Do I condition my chopper mitts? I don't. If you see me, I wear those big leather chopper mitts. Some think they're Baking mitts, I've been asked before. Oh, let's see. Randy, what is your favorite fixed blade knife for field dressing? I can't say that I have a favorite one. I've registered all of my thoughts and ideas on fixed blade knives and even replaceable blade knives. And we're going to hold off on answering that question for a while because I'm not at liberty to answer it the way I really would like to answer it. But the good folks at Gerber have some really good solutions. Let's put it that way. Right now I use a Gerber, my fixed blade knife is a Gerber Gator Premium. I do love it. It's really nice. But dang, I wish I could talk more, but I'd better shut up. Randy, what's your biggest concern to the future of elk hunting? CWD, legislation, hunter populations, or something else? I think there's a couple things. There is stuff coming out in studies that I don't think they're going to be released for a few more years because scientists, to their credit, want to make sure they've done all the analysis they can, all the variables. But here's one thing that is happening in the West. Those of us who live here and see it, we've kind of noticed it, but I think some of the science, when it comes out and is peer-reviewed, is going to support it. You have elk up here in the summer range. They come down to the winter range, which is mostly private, down low. So when they leave the summer range, they used to slowly go through this transition range on their way down to the winter range. Because that transition range was high quality. It had been either mechanically treated through logging, through thinning, and in many instances, it had been controlled burns. It had received treatment to get rid of invasive weeds. We had a lot of higher quality transition range. Now elk are leaving the summer range, and our transition ranges in many areas are such poor quality of forage and habitat for these elk that they just blow right through that transition range down to the private. So we end up with big herds of elk down on private. And everyone's like, well, those private landowners. Well, really what it is the elk are selecting for the better habitat. And the better habitat is no longer on these transition ranges in many instances. I'm not saying everywhere. I think if we don't start addressing how we're going to treat and allow for better productivity in these transition ranges where most of the hunting happens, we're going to end up with a situation with lots and lots of elk, but not elk we have access to. So to me right now, that's the thing that's in my head. And how do we solve that? Well, most elk hunters know that fire is a beneficial thing on the landscape. But if you look at some of the tragic fires that have happened in the country in the last 5 years, lots of death, lots of destruction of property, many places don't have the appetite for controlled burns, especially places close to urban areas or close to any type of human dwellings. So if you're going to take controlled burns, one of our most powerful habitat manipulation tools, and you're going to say, we don't like those, and you move them off the table. What are you going to do to keep that habitat productive so that the elk don't just leave the summer habitat and shoom, within 2 days they're down on the private? Because we don't get a chance to hunt them when they move that quickly. And I'm not saying that's happening everywhere, but it's definitely happening in a lot of places, and we're going to have to figure it out. To me, that's a really, really big challenge. That's probably more lecture than it is anything, but I've had the chance to talk to some of the people who know about those studies, and when they come out, I think it's going to open a lot of eyes about how elk on public land is looked at. We've always assumed that all habitat is equal, that the public land habitat is just as good as the private land, and I'm here to tell you that's not the case. We used to always say, oh, it's just hunting pressure. Hunting pressure is what pushes them to private. Yes, hunting pressure does, but it's not the only factor. Elk are smart, elk are selective. They're going to the place that has the best habitat, and very often that best habitat is in places public land elk hunters won't have access to. So We can have all the elk in the world, but if we don't have elk in places hunters can get to, it's going to be a challenge. So, let's see. Bryce says, "Hey Randy, we got a nice bison on the Henrys. Thanks for the advice." Hey, congratulations, Bryce. Glad you guys were successful. Someone says, "Randy, there are some good over-the-counter elk units in the fall once you are a resident." I'm assuming this person is in Utah based on our earlier discussion about why I don't hunt the Utah over-the-counters. Let's see. Let's see. Boy, there's so many of them here. Oh, Kentucky deadline. I think that's in May. Don't forget to apply in Kentucky. I hope someday Kentucky calls me and says, "You are one of the lucky guys that have the Kentucky elk tag." Such a remarkable story. If you ever get a chance, go and read the story, watch some of the videos Elk Foundation has done about how elk got reintroduced into Kentucky. It's such a remarkable story. And if that doesn't cause you to say, man, hunting is a way to support conservation, well, you're probably never going to see it that way if you don't have that vision after seeing how elk ended up in Kentucky. Let's see. Have you ever hunted the flat tops in Colorado? No, I haven't. Grizzly bear deterrent. I'm assuming that's spray versus a firearm. Everyone asks me this because they always see, "Randy, you're not carrying a sidearm." Nope, I don't. I'm a spray guy. For quite a few reasons. One, I'm not proficient with a handgun. The other is I've had 2 very close encounters with grizzly bears that in both instances I'm fortunate that they turned and went the other way. But seeing how fast they went the other way and how quickly they can close a distance, if they would have turned and come towards me, I would not have been able to draw and use a handgun. But if I was, fighting off and doing whatever, I think I might have a better chance. I'm not saying I'd have a chance, but I'd have a better chance of employing bear spray. So that's why I do it. I know everyone's going to have a different opinion, and that's fine, but that's what I use. You'll see me carrying that in grizzly country. And it always makes me, I guess I'm surprised at how observant people are in that. Oh man, he's not carrying a sidearm. No, I'm not. Randy, what are your top 3 rifle cartridges for elk? Okay, for elk? Is a 6.5 Creedmoor enough to take an elk? Yeah, it is. Back to the old thing. Bullet placement, shot selection, and high quality bullets. 6.5 will do it. My top 3 cartridges for elk? It's going to be one of the 30 calibers. I don't know how else to say it. If you had a penny for every elk taken with a 30-06, a 308, a 300 Win Mag, a 338, whatever, crazy how many you'd have. So if it was strictly elk hunting, I'd be for sure grabbing one of my 30 calibers. So. What are your thoughts on the decline in hunters when areas across the Northwest that I've been hunting for 18 plus years has shown a large increase in hunters? I love the fact that more people are being involved in hunting. Just wondering where the word decline in hunters is coming from. They're saying that as a nationwide event. In many states outside of the West, the decline in hunters is drastic. Development, societal pressures, so many things are making it harder for those people to hunt. They're losing their places to hunt to human development. Their places get closed off to hunting because of houses nearby. People have lost their permissions. You look at just whitetail hunting in the Midwest and in the South. It used to be you didn't need to have a $20,000 a year lease to go whitetail hunting. And a lot of places, that's how it is now. It's cheaper for a lot of people to come out west and hunt than it is to hunt in their own backyard. So we see a growth of hunter numbers in the West, and we see huge declines of hunters in the Midwest, in the Southeast, in the Far East, in the Northeast. Those Great Lakes states, just take Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those 3 states probably have more hunters in total numbers than all the Rocky Mountain states. And when those states start seeing declines, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, all those places that have huge hunting numbers and huge hunter traditions, when those start falling off the map, you see a decline in the total number of hunters. And we hear this out west very often. Well, I don't see a shortage of hunters. No, because it's cheaper for those people to come out here and hunt because they lost their places back home. I know that probably might not be the answer Western hunters want to hear, but it's a reality that we're dealing with. John says, in Utah, development it has become a huge problem. Yeah, you drive the Wasatch Front in Utah, that's a really good example to see. Even if you haven't lost all the deer and elk that used to use those foothills, there's not places there that you can go and hunt like you could in the past. So, and licensed sales numbers are down. David brings that up. Yeah, that's true. We get the data, we get the numbers of how much the sales were by state, and it's dropping. It just is. So, let's see. I'm not answering that question. Let's see. Randy, how many failed elk hunts did you have before you succeeded? I don't know how many hunts it would be, but I hunted elk 6 years without killing one. When I moved to Montana in 1991, I hunted 6 seasons before the opening day of the next year I killed one. And after that, and I've told this story many times, is that's how I developed my 5 seasons of elk hunting, was that summer. After 6 years of not killing elk, I sat down and said, how is it that I can catch fish everywhere I go, especially I'm a walleye fisherman. Well, I knew a lot about walleyes. I had broke down, okay, there's what I call cold water, there's pre-spawn, there's spawn, there's post-spawn, and then there's summer pattern. Well, the walleyes were in different places, and I knew what they were doing at each of those times. So I took that same thing and built a calendar for elk. And the very first day, the very first morning of the next year, boom, shot an elk. And the next year, boom, shot an elk. And the next year. So I often say I'm really grateful for how many years I struggled. I absolutely, I thought, you know what, not only I knew I was a bad elk hunter, but I thought I got to be the worst elk hunter, or the worst hunter on the planet. So I'm thankful for all those mistakes I made along the way. I learned a lot from them. Let's see. Randy, what would you say your success rate is on elk, deer, antelope, etc.? It seemed pretty high on your show. I don't know. You know, there were one time we were sitting on a mountain and we did the math on that, and I think our elk success came in at like 70%. In antelope, you know, anyone who hunts antelope much, you're going to have pretty much 100% success on antelope. And in the West, in Montana, the places we go, you should have close to 100% on deer. Not always. I mean, sometimes we mess something up or we decide to pass or whatever, but elk is one where it's really, really tough on public land. So, what's that? Do you eat? I'm not sure what that question is. When are you going to strap your pack on and get those legs in shape? I better get after it. Just trapping this week, carrying traps and stomping through snow about that deep, post holing through it, and then getting in the creek, you know, where you got like that much muck pulling your boots in. I'm like, man, I'm out of shape. So that's what spring bear hunting is for us. Spring bear hunting is when we say, all right, time to get back in shape again. Let's see. Randy, what are your thoughts on applying for antelope tags in Wyoming with your second choice in a unit with leftover tags so that you don't burn your points, but you still end up with a tag to hunt? Are those tags, in your opinion, not worth acquiring for non-residents? I've done it quite a bit. I will say that the units I used to do it with were pretty darn good units that had decent access. Now the ones that you can do it with there's still a lot of antelope there, but access is really, really, really tough. We've done it with deer. So it just depends on what you want out of your hunt. I want to go, and so a lot of times I'll put in as a second choice one of those things, just like you mentioned. And what he's talking about is in Wyoming, you only lose your points if you draw your first choice. So if you draw a second or third choice. So this year, I drew my elk as a second choice. I guess that answers your question. Yeah, I do that. All right. Kyler, you got a really, really good one? Let's see. Over the counter sheep in Montana, never done it. I'm not tough enough anymore. Ever hunted or plan to hunt in California? Yeah, I've hunted California, but I don't plan on going there. It's not a place that has what our audience is looking for. And to get to California, most of our audience would be driving through the Rocky Mountain states to get to California. And so it's hard for us to convince people, oh, you should drive past all that good elk and deer and antelope hunting to go to California. So I'm just being honest about what our content is going to be. Randy, what are your thoughts to a solution on the point creep problem? I think this is really going to become a problem for the next generation of hunters. This is the good question to end this with. A couple things. First of all, point creep is a reality. You better get used to it no matter what state you're applying in if you have a state that has a point system. Second of all, I think what we're seeing in point creep is reasons that Idaho and New Mexico residents should resist a point system at all costs. I've said this many times. In a lot of states, I've got anywhere from 18 to 22 points for a lot of species. I'd give them all back and say, I'll walk away from those points. Let's get rid of point systems. Point systems create point creep, and point creep is one of those things that I think if you're a new hunter or you're a younger hunter, it's a deterrent. And so we come up with all kinds of crazy schemes. And this is Randy going off the rails here a little bit. My home state of Montana, I sat on our bonus point committee back in 1999. When that committee was there, I was one of about 20 people. And back in that day, I didn't have all this gray hair. I was the youngest person on that committee by quite a bit. Since we came up with that Montana system, they've decided to square the bonus points. Well, what good does squaring bonus points have, say, for moose, goat, or sheep when most of the population has maximum points? It's such an infinite little incremental increase in the odds of the max point holders, but it all comes at the expense of new hunters. I advocated at that time, let's do like Utah or let's do like Wyoming does, take a percentage of the tags and keep them random, or not subject them to all these other crazy things. Utah their half still goes through a bonus system. Wyoming, 25% of their tags go into a random draw. I would love to see that. I think every state that has a bonus point system, I wish that they would start thinking about, all right, let's carve some of these away as just random tags. We're never going to get rid of point creep, and for a couple of reasons. One, we have more demand than we have supply. We have way more people wanting these premium hunts than what we have for opportunities to go and participate in them because the resource can't withstand it if we're going to manage for such high age classes in some places. So, for me, how I handle it is I don't apply for the glory units. I do what I can for conservation because in the long run, I think you're better off to invest your time and your money putting more animals in the mountains, on the hills, in the fields, and increase the total number than to spend your time fighting and arguing over a shrinking pie. Make the pie bigger. That's why I'm such a fanatic, such an advocate about the importance of conservation. If we just say, well, we're going to let it dwindle and kind of shrivel up, and let's just fight harder and come up with more elaborate schemes about who gets this opportunity of this shrinking pie, that is a terminal path. So I can't say that I have an answer to it. Those are my thoughts on it. I know you're probably never going to solve it, is what my takeaway from watching it happen. I've been applying in these states. Since the first year I applied as an out-of-state resident was in Colorado in 1995, so 24 years ago. And I've applied in every western state for decades. And I've seen this trend happening. I've seen it. You start out this way, and then, well, some people at the top want more allocated towards them. So the state undergoes a bunch of political pressure to legislatively change that. And we keep helping the people at the top of the pile. And if the pie is only this big, and you're going to take a bigger piece of the pie and give it to the people at the top, that's a smaller piece of the pie for everyone who's not at the top. So, boy, I better shut up before I say something that gets me in trouble. But we'll be back here next Wednesday. Thanks to Bowtech, Leupold, Onyx, Go Hunt, Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, Tight Spot, Ripcord, Black Gold. What am I missing, Kyler? Anything? Oh, what's that? So, we also hope you'll go out to our YouTube channel. We got our 100,000 YouTube subscriber plaque right there. We got Amazon Prime. If you get Amazon Prime, you can watch all of our content out there for free. Fresh Tracks with Randy Newberg. YouTube channel is Randy Newberg Hunter. We got Instagram. We got Facebook if you're watching here. And we got a Hunt Talk forum, hunttalk.com. Go out there, sign up. A lot of great people sharing information there. And tune in next week. Oh, and text Randy to 64600 and you'll get notified when we go live. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here.